like one of the topics that's like not really covered very much. And I've made references to it here and there, but my general intention regarding that is uh my general intention regarding that is just to bring a level of awareness to the actual product itself and how things work in that particular environment. So this here is a product called 129.com. Right, let's say first and foremost, right, the first thing to understand here is that if, for example, if you lose something for whatever reason, and the thing gets used or whatever the case may be, and then somebody tries to give it back to you, would you take it? Would you still want it, or would you rather wait for the next thing? Right? Because again, if you really look at it and try to evaluate things backwards to bring a true understanding to why it is you may have lost something, and why it is that thing is being returned back to you. It might be that people couldn't identify or find out that it belonged to you, but also that could be wrong, right? There could be a whole lot of other factors that might have led to that particular disagreement. So what would be the best option there, right? Because if you take one side, you might just end up being abused, manipulated again, or being put in a position where they can then prevent that future thing that's waiting for you to become manifest in your reality. So I feel like that's a very difficult thing to do. Um, in all honesty, so for me personally, I don't really know where I'd stand with that type of thing. But even though I like to explore the past and accommodate it into my present, so that it can share the future with me. However, I feel by my past, what I mean is that like whatever this thing or opportunity may be, right? Be it whatever. I'm not talking about people here because people sometimes tend to self reflect and analyze to their own being, right? That's not what this is about. Just in general, say it again, or whatever the case may be. So now that's that. So this thing, right? It's like what would you do? Would you take it back and accommodate, or would that actually just deter and ruin your future and just send that thing straight to the hell that it possibly belongs? So I think that's definitely very difficult from my point of view, and I find myself in those scenarios. But I think also just root cause analysis really helps to a degree. Root cause analysis is not a way to avoid punishment and finding problems, but it's a way to strengthen self for future occurrences, right? And that's pretty much that regarding that. Now, this product here, you can use it to look up people, businesses, and places in the UK, and it provides you a lot more information. So here, if you just type in, just again John Smith, there should be a John Smith somewhere, and I say London. And I don't know what the advanced search does, but okay, the advanced search adds like a bunch of other stuff. You can put in information here like living with. Yeah, you can put in an address as well to get specific information about a particular individual. However, so let's see here. So if I just say John Smith, give it a little look up. John Smith here. Then we're just gonna say London. And we click search. And then we find all these people here called John Smiths. I don't know what this ER thing means. Oh, electric roll, right? So when there's a person registered for an electric roll, which is a very, very powerful thing, right? This is a very, very powerful thing. And they have also the associated occupancies. So if I click here for John R. Smith, see, Now we're gonna log in and actually register to view the record, which is one of the things. I don't know if I can go back on this. Uh, yeah, which is one of the things that most people tend to use as their methodology for why this thing here. You can even get background reports. So the background reports is actually quite more extensive, and this is actually quite more difficult to understand. But all this information here, downloadable in PDF format. Uh, Which doesn't seem like much and not really useful, but I think that when people have direct use for it, it becomes useful to some degree. But then people will be like, oh, yeah, well, this is what people would say. They'll be like, oh, yeah, well, you can't use it. It's all protected and stuff. Um, Especially the people want to be like, yeah, you can't use it. It's all protected. You have to go through specific checks, blah, 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 blah. But then when truth comes to when for people like, or at least the way that I understand it and why I'm actually making this video, is because that I understand that, this company in itself, this data has already been leaked, right? And it hasn't been leaked. The data has actually been hacked, right? So the databases have been hacked and the data is being stored, is being sold in the dark net, right? So you can actually buy a lookup service, a lookup to this service to just the people section. You can't do the background reports. I think that's a bit more extensive, but you can definitely get the electrical information of these individuals going back to like way back. And plus, it gets updated regularly as well. Not like regularly, it's daily, but it gets updated on a like at least 3-4 times a year, right? So if we take that into consideration, what is it, or exactly what is it in our reality? Is the fuck going on here, fam? Like I can't get a job, right? But then there's systems like this. Well, maybe I can't get a job, but there's systems like this that are fully being utilized by hackers with specific, like they're actively being hacked. Like they're guaranteed hack weaknesses that are there. There are continuously databases that are continuously being ransacked, and and it's just like it's just normal, you know. And to me, this worries me. But not only that, um, it just means that the security that we value so much, maybe we shouldn't value so much. And let's not take for granted the things that we do have, because a lot of people do get impacted by this, but not all of us though. So I think that that's an important thing to take into consideration, and just in the hopes that nobody would abuse that information. But knowing that that information is available and that I could even regularly access that information if I wanted to, but I don't because I have no need to, right? And accessing that information, there ain't no login for these days, nothing, because it's a malicious site. So we have we are protected, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have to be logical thinkers, right? We have, I don't know how to fix this, but I feel like it's a vulnerability that's present that I'm aware of, right? Um, and I just think that it's something that we should all be aware of, because we don't know how many databases there are like this. Like this one here, I think was probably quite common. I could show you it, but I'm not gonna do that because first and foremost, it's a complicated process, and I don't want to do that because I feel like it might be too malicious to share. But we don't know, because that one was easy for me to find. Like if we don't know what database or what other databases out there have been compromised, and I know that national important. Like I don't know if this one here, this I don't believe it's a like government system or something like that. And you know what? It could not even be from 192 where the databases are coming from, but the databases are coming from a legitimate source. That's for sure. And the databases basically expose sensitive information. You know, and sometimes you know, fuck, man, it's crazy because it's fucking bananas. Even like just thinking like specific things wherein you know we get inclinations within ourselves. Like it's crazy because like at least I know that I would expect the people, the powers that be, to trust that I wouldn't abuse this information, right? You know, I hope they trust me to be a bit more responsible, but also there's inclinations within us when I'm doing things. Because I don't know how long I keep making well, I can't keep making mistakes for too long. I'm definitely becoming somewhat aware. And I think that in our life, right, we have these situations wherein we let people take advantage of us as we are learning and experimenting. That's all that is, right? So even if you know that something's wrong and something isn't right, right, as you're growing, you have to take the doubt. You have to doubt it a second. You have to make the wrong decision yourself in the intent to believe others for the purposes of exposing the truth and having a better understanding of self, even though it might hurt, right? And that's just what that is, you know. And it's funny because you lose more power as time progresses. And also another thing as well, back to that thing there where like you know, if the law gets circumvented too much, you know, and we lose the ability to trust in the government, to trust in the law, what happens to us therein, you know? What happens to us therein? Like what becomes of us? Because if the law is no longer there for us and we don't feel that it encompasses enough to actually govern us in an acceptable manner, and when we break laws, we don't run from them in general, in terms of, like, for example, you know, if you get caught smoking weed, for example, that type of thing, then what happens, right? What's there to protect society and the things that we fundamentally rely on? The world becomes a very different place, you know, and I personally believe that people should always take things to their own hands, but people may start doing that and everything becomes hyper complicated, you know? So that's the thing about that sort of old thing, because again, like that thing I keep saying that from the past, if you were to lose it, blah 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 blah, would you take it back? Because then at the same time, you know, you start to, even me of myself right now, it's like most creatures are like dead creatures, and they need other people to sustain their living, right? They may not be dead physically, but mentally, spiritually, they could be, and they need other people. And the only reason that you might be a reference point is just because that you're just a point of energy, a point to consume something to sustain their living. But they don't actually know it. Neither do I, to be fair, but I'm only judging based on the limited understanding that I have, based on the conversations I've had, and based on what people have shown and taught me. Um, and so that's that really. You know, I'm really worried about that because as things become lawless, man, spaces become crazy, and I don't know what I don't know what it'd be like then, and you know they just become greasy, you know. So be careful of that as well, you know, when you do your things, because also you know when there's the other thing with hackers and people is that with people and law and stuff, you can't. This information is not regularly available to them. If you want to get logs, for example, right, that's quite difficult, right? You have to go through this procedure to the courts, etc. If you want to do anything, you have to follow these procedures, even if you know with the police or whatever the case may be. There's always these procedures and stuff. But when it comes to hackers and stuff, you know, on the other side of the world, like people actually don't care. They're not like that. You just take the information as is. You know, they break into the system. take the information that you think that other people can't get that protects you and utilize that information to whatever ends to actually make sure that what it is they're doing because those boundaries aren't really present therein. So that's those things to take into consideration. Because I worry about a lawless environment. Uh, and I think that that may be where some aspects of this world is going. And I trust that this made some sense, and I hope it makes you think. And if you watch this and you're actually somebody, goddamn man, find me a job, send me a DM or something, man. I'm sure I can secure us like something, man. I can look at an environment and be like, that shit look somewhat insecure, but you can secure it like this or something like that. I can do other shit, but I need some peace of it right now. So hey, I'm not gonna take a bite of the forbidden fruit, though the forbidden fruit does look easily attainable. You know, like this low hanging fruit. There's trees just everywhere, but I'm not gonna do that. And I'm trying my best as well. Like I'm looking more at the reverse engineering. Like I'm looking more at the tech side. I got a few tech things to sort out before the Attack on Titan. Well, not just before ALT, but I got some tech things to sort out. So that's I'm calm about that. Just a couple projects I gotta finish, and that's pretty much it. But at the same time, I'm just like, yo, man, you know, that's all that is. That was. Yeah, so it's just something to ponder on and just understand. Don't get too cocky because you feel like people can't. There's things out there that we're not aware of and that bypass our understanding of how reality and organizational society should function.